your favorite nurse Doms, and welcome to Trauma Bond. I have another episode here for you, and my special guest is my brother-in-law Mike. Say hello, Mike.
Hello.
Alrighty, let's get right into it. On today's episode of Trauma Bond, we're going to be talking about all things related to jail. Basically, my brother-in-law is a sheriff at a jail, and he's going to tell us some stories, but I'm also going to ask him some questions along the way, see what kind of trauma he endured from working in a jail around a bunch of people who were criminals, maybe they made mistakes, all walks of life in there. So, first, I'll let you just specify how it is working as a sheriff in a jail.
Well, it's an interesting career. As you know, I've done this job for the better part of my adult life since I was 19, 20 years old, 13 years. And in that time, I've seen a lot of things that are traumatic, not just for me to see, but to try to comprehend what other people have gone through in their lives that wound them up to deal with me in that moment and that day. It's interesting because it's not like you see these people and you deal with them one time and then that's it. You, unfortunately, with the way that people's lives work, the way the justice system works, these people are in and out of jail over and over and over again. It's one big circle of life for them. And so when you've been doing it for as long as I have, you begin to know these people. Like it's not just, you're not dealing with somebody that you don't know with. You're dealing with somebody that you've dealt with hundreds or thousands of times in your career.
You end up getting to know them.
Yeah, you get to know them, and you see, unfortunately too, you see with all the mental health issues that people have, you see the progression of that. You see them like
Deteriorate.
The first time you dealt with them 10 years ago, and now you're dealing with them today. And they're completely different people from who they were back then.
That's got to be crazy. Kind of like my job, where you work at a detox center, and apparently all the same people are in there all the time. And then you see them and they look awful. I haven't had to see any reoccurring clients, but I did see someone get high while there, and she was completely different. It was kind of sad. It was like seeing your mother, do drugs and then act completely talking to the walls and stuff. It got to me, that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad. It just some of the crazy stuff that people do. I mean, you know, just a couple of things I've seen. People like defecating in their own hand and then eating it, or
That's awful.
smearing their own feces all over themselves or the cell that they're in, drinking and eating out of the toilet when they have perfectly good food available to them.
They have okay food.
I
don't think I'd eat it.
Well, a little better than
toilet water.
A little better than toilet food. And it's sad to see that stuff, though. Because you want to look at these people with some sort of compassion. They're human beings, but it's really hard. I'm not crazy, so I don't understand what they're thinking. I don't understand why they're doing the things that they do. And the closest thing I've come in all these years to understanding it is, well, they're crazy and I'm not, so I'm never going to understand why they do what they do.
I think a lot of it too has to do with not even mental issues, although they say drug use starts with mental issues, but sometimes drug use creates mental issues.
I was going to say, I think it's opposite. I think a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a mental health professional, but I base my opinions based on what I've seen over the last 14 years of doing this, and the laws that have been passed or changed in that amount of time. And like when they decriminalized hard drugs in California, like I saw a noticeable difference in these people that were coming in, because before, yeah, they were doing drugs here and there, and they'd come in and they'd dry out for, you they'd actually get sentenced to jail time for possession of drugs. They'd come in, they'd dry out, they'd go out and get high again and come back. So yeah, it's still a circle, but now that circle is just so much faster because we don't keep those people in custody.
Mm-hmm.
They get arrested for drug possession or being under the influence. They come in, and within several days, basically before they've even come down, they're released and back out doing their thing. So they don't get like any time to dry out. They don't get any time to get that drugs out of their system. It's just constant, constant, constant. And I think that takes way more of a toll on their mental health and their physical health than before, when if they got caught, they were going to do a year or two in jail, dry out.
Do you think that there's something else that would be beneficial to have in jail that would help them stay off the streets besides keeping them there longer, or to keep them away from drugs? Have you ever thought of
I
some?
think the problem is a lot of these people, and I understand where you're going with that, and a lot of people think that way, like, well, there's got to be a way to get them some help, but you can't help people that don't want to be helped.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, in a lot of these cases, they don't want the help.
All right, I have a question for you.
Okay.
When you are always on like 150% at work, and then you have to come home and quickly be on a 20, how hard is that?
I feel like I have an advantage because we live so far away from where I work. So I have, a 45-minute drive that I can kind of come down, listen to some music, and try and leave that at work as much as I can. But it's difficult, and it's difficult to deal with because you go from high adrenaline, especially like in this situation with my line of work. It's constant adrenaline dump and then calm. And you have to regulate that. And that's difficult to make your body do. Like, a call comes out and an inmate's fighting a deputy, trying to kill a deputy. And so you're running down there full bore, thinking, man, you're going to get down there and you're going to be in the fight for your life. And you get down there and you get in there, and the guy just lays down and puts his hands behind his back and says, that's it. I mean, you got to go from all this adrenaline and then bring it down to nothing because it's over with. As soon as he stopped, it's done. You don't get to go in there and rile it back up and try to get get yours in, so to speak. That's not how it works.
Have you seen any other sheriffs do that?
Yeah,
where they can't bring their adrenaline down?
Yeah, I've seen several people that I work with, people that I came up with in the department that are fired or faced jail time for that.
I can imagine. I don't know how I would do it, but then again, I'm a nurse, so sometimes my adrenaline is up like that, and then when the patient's fine, I'm chilling. Or when I did the hospice, seeing the people die, your first thought is not adrenaline, but it feels like it, because your first thought when someone's dying is you need to save them, but you can't. So I gotta calm when that adrenaline starts. I'm running, getting oxygen, but then none of it will help. It'll just ease it, so I have to calm.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things, this is a little bit off topic to the question, but one of the things that I kind of suffer with, or that I have a hard time with, is like outside of work, when something happens, and like, to me, it's something that's minor. Like, this is a minor situation that's going on, but to the average person, like, this is out of control. This is the most craziest thing they've ever seen in their life, And so you've got these situations like at the park during Fiesta Days where there's like some sort of medical emergency, and you've got like 20 people around, and they're freaking out like, oh, this is like, it's this crazy emergency. And it's hard to like be the calm in that storm. Like, hey, you guys need to calm down, man. You're doing more harm than you are good.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out. What's the The
You
guy's not
know,
getting no help, you know?
like in this one situation, in that very scenario, this guy was lost consciousness at the park, and his roommate was there and was like, well, he's diabetic, and so he starts seizing a little bit. So right off the, obviously, in law enforcement, you have a certain level of medical care that you have to provide and that you're trained on. And I see medical emergencies 10 times a day. So, I start running through my head. I'm like, well, they said he's diabetic. He's losing consciousness. He's starting to seize. Well, he's low. He needs, he's obviously, his sugar's low. This lady's there and she's like, well, I'm a doctor and he needs sugar right now. And she's like trying to give him uh, like snow cone syrup orally. But this dude's seizing and unconscious. And I'm like, what are you doing? We got to get sugar. Yeah, but you think this guy's airway is stable right now? You're going to. He's going to aspirate. He's going to suck that down his throat, not his.
Even if it was open enough to get that, it's not enough sugar.
But he's not like, just to try and, I understand trying to get sugar on board, but to put it down an unstable airway like that is just. And this lady says that she's a doctor. Difficult to be in that situation, and you're like, all these people are around you freaking out, and to you it's like, this dude's got low sugar, he's having a seizure, man, just chill out.
Well, what they needed to do was call an ambulance.
The ambulance is going to be here any minute, just relax.
And they have glucagon, which is a shot that's not oral. You give it just regular shot, and then their blood sugar goes right up, and then they're fine.
Yeah.
There's no need to pour snow cone juice down someone's throat.
Well, I mean, if he was conscious and he was like, hey, man, I'm low. I know I'm low. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm about to go out. Yeah, man, if you're conscious and you got a stable airway, sure, start getting that. It's not going to hurt. It's going to start to help, but to try to pour it down a fucking unconscious dude's throat, it's crazy.
But you're a doctor.
And you claim that you're a doctor.
Doctors are never there in the emergencies in hospitals and stuff. It's always the nurses first, and then the doctor saying some dumb shit after they're already helped. Like the patient's table. Oh, we need to give him this. Yeah, well, thanks to us, you could give it to him now. What about the craziest thing you've ever seen while working?
Oh, man. Well, I picked up a dude's ear once.
Ew.
That had been cut off of him. That was pretty wild.
Just the ear?
Yeah, this fella, he got stabbed up a bunch, sexually assaulted, and the guy like cut his ear off and his nose off.
Jeez.
In the jail cell, and so that was pretty wild because after the fact, you have a crime scene. It's got to be photographed, right? So we're going to try to prosecute the suspect. But after the fact, it's all got to get cleaned up. It does, you don't get to walk away from it and say, "Oh, we're done here."
Who cleans it?
Well, we have it back then. We'd have inmate laborers do it. And so this IL. I was like, what's that on the floor? And I went and picked it up. It was the guy's ear. And they're like, what do we do with that? And I was fairly new at the time, too. I was like,
what do we do with it?
So, throw it away.
Like, that's awful. They don't make you put it in a bag and some ice or anything.
They're not going to put it back on. I mean, it wasn't his entire ear. It was a chunk of his ear. But they're not going to put that back on. This is hours and hours later after this is after all the photographing took place. I mean, this guy's long gone at the hospital. There's,
just throw it away. Just in the regular trash can. That's disgusting.
That one was pretty rough, and as you know, aside from working in the jail, I I volunteer to do search and rescue, and that's where I've seen some crazy stuff too. You know, like
Up here?
yeah, some trauma when you think about like someone who's fallen off steep cliffs and the wreckage that does to a body is pretty unexplainable.
Didn't you tell me once that you went, I don't know if it was during like the snow or the storm or something, but you went to someone's house and they had been not alive for a while? Was it you guys who told me that? You and your dad? I don't
Yeah, I
remember
mean
if it
we've
was like 3 days or something, but they were just dead. You found them in there?
I don't remember one from 3 days. I had a neighbor like before I even worked for the sheriff's office and before I did search and rescue. I had a neighbor. He had died in his house and was in there for a while. And you you drive down the street and smell something pretty funky.
You found him?
No, I didn't go in and find him, but then one of my friends at the time was working for a company, and that their job was to like crime scene cleanup stuff.
Hmm.
And so he had told me about it, and I was like, oh, I kind of figured because it's a pretty distinct odor.
I know somebody has to be the crime scene people, but like, how do you become one to get into that? Like, I really want to clean up
Well,
some blood.
so a lot of the time it's just like because so they're specialized companies that do that crime scene, but that's not all they do. So they do like hoarder houses and stuff like that, like abandoned properties.
To clean them up. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I imagine that people get into that line of work thinking they're going to be like cleaning out, houses that hoarders lived in, and then they
Mm.
find out, oh no, I've got to clean up crime scenes and
Ugh. I couldn't
stuff like
imagine.
that.
Like, I could do blood, but I can't do that. I don't think. What about that chili story you told me? Because if all of them, besides the Mike guy, that's the one I remember.
The Chili Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, back in the day, they used to use inmate laborers to help in the kitchen cooking the food for the other inmates. And so the way they do this is they cook this food in big, large vats. Um, like I don't know how many gallons, but like we're talking huge portions of food that they're cooking, and they put it on the trays and they label it, and then they truck it to the facility that it's going to and label it by what housing unit it's going to go to. And so they cook this batch of food up, and the inmate laborers that are being used in there are general population. So they're your run of the mill, gangster, murder. We wouldn't use a murderer for this to be an inmate laborer, but people that have not so bad charges and their general population. In other words, they could be around everybody, and they're reasonably not going to cause
Ruckus.
ruckus. Uh, and then you have like protective custody inmates, which are like your dropout gang. People that have dropped out of gangs, and they can't stay in general population because the gangs would kill them. Child molesters, people who wouldn't make it in general population. There's something about them that's going to cause them to get that jail politics are going to cause them to get harmed or worse.
Killed.
Yeah. So these inmate laborers are general population. They're in there cooking the foods, but they know what trays are going to what housing units. And although we don't tell them, hey, this is who's housed here, this is who's housed there, over time they figure that out on their own. And so they find out where the PCs are, the protective custody inmates are housed. and they contaminate their food that goes over there by like putting feces and urine and stuff in them. And so, yeah, I'm passing chow one day, and this protective custody inmate's like, "Hey, man, this food smells horrible." So, well, it's jail food, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's jail food. He's like, "No, like, there's something wrong with it." And then when my chow server told me, he's like, "Yeah, there's something wrong with this," and that's when I knew, like, because obviously, whether they're your ILs, your chow servers, they're still inmates. You can't trust them, but you give them a little higher level of trust than everybody else because they have something to lose, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they cross you and you fire them, they no longer get extra food. They don't get extra time out of their units. That stuff comes with with working, is they get to come out, when everybody else is locked down and mop or sweep or whatever, and then we give them extra food. So they've got something to lose. And so when he told me, like, "Hey, no, there's something wrong, like, you need to call a supervisor, there's something wrong," and I was like, okay. And sure enough, they, I don't know how they linked it up, or if one of the inmates that was in the kitchen kind of snitched on it. But yeah, they contaminated the food, and we had to take all that food back. And obviously, I wasn't there watching them do it.
They don't have cameras back
But
there?
no, we're talking like this was over 10 years ago.
Do they have cameras now?
Yeah.
Like everywhere, or just
Everywhere.
in certain? Oh,
Everywhere. There's
not
cameras.
in their jail cells.
Not in their jail cells, because there's certain privacy things. Like, we obviously wouldn't put a camera on where they're going to the bathroom and stuff like that. But every housing unit has cameras in it. Every sally port, every hallway, every control room.
What? Just because I've never been to jail, what like activities or things do they give the inmates to do besides like going back to school and stuff to better themselves in there?
So there's, believe it or not, like you asked me earlier, and I told you, like, you can't help people that don't want to be helped. Like, there's so many programs that are available for these people while they're in jail that they could use, to get skill sets, to get a job when they get out. We have substance abuse classes. We have um, classes, like, they'll teach you how to design like decals and print like decals for like vehicles or like signs and stuff like that. They'll teach you how to wrap a car, put, like, everybody now puts wraps on their cars. There's programs that teach them how to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, GED classes, domestic abuse classes, anger management classes. Like, every day there's 10 to 15 classes a day going on that these inmates can attend if they'd like. We don't force them to do it. We even will give them, if they're sentenced to county jail, we'll give them time off their sentence for enrolling in these and completing these courses.
Mm-hmm.
And still, a lot of them don't, just because they're not interested. They want to come in, do their time, and get out and go start robbing people and doing dope.
Have you ever seen an inmate outside of work?
Oh yeah.
What happened?
Well, it depends. This has actually happened multiple times. Weren't you there at Olive Garden that one time?
Yeah.
Or, luckily I recognized him before he recognized me, and I was
But
like,
I saw that guy first. I was like, "What's that guy looking at?" I'm already getting all crazy, and you're like, "Whoa, whoa, we gotta take a chill pill.
We gotta go." Like, it's different. Like, if it's just me walking through Walmart and I see him, I don't care that much, because there's nothing that they're gonna do to me that they didn't do in jail, And if they do, I'll handle it. I'll deal with it. It's when I have the family with me. It's like, that's what puckers me up, because there there's a side of me that I really don't want
Anyone
my
to see?
kids to have to see.
Hmm.
When you do this for so long, you kind of develop a certain callous towards certain things, and there's a side of me that I don't want my family to see.
Yeah. Do you ever treat some inmates differently because you could see them possibly outside?
No,
Or do you handle certain situations more delicately just in case?
no, I do my best to treat everybody the same, because that's way it's consistent. They can't be mad at me for that. Even if I do see them outside, they can't say, "Well, you were a prick to me when I was in jail." Well, yeah, that might be, but I'm a prick to everybody that's in jail. That's my job. I'm there to enforce the law.
Hmm.
I'm there to enforce our rules and to keep everybody safe. I'm not there to make friends with anybody.
Yeah. I think a lot of inmates forget that too, is like you're not on a vacation, you know? You're
Yeah.
there because you did something wrong and it's like your time out, you know?
Right. And it's like, so what can you get mad about me for? Yeah, maybe I wasn't polite to you, but I'm not polite to anybody in there,
We didn't put you in there, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm pretty well known for being like a hard ass. Where like other deputies would have let some things slide, like I won't, just because I feel like once you let something slide, that's your standard from
Hmm.
there on out. Like you just told them I'm okay with letting things slide. But if you don't, if you're by the book every step of the way, there's nothing that they can do to you besides, physical harm. You know, I've been greenlit a couple of times, but uh, I try to stay consistent and treat everybody the same, regardless of, which is difficult to do because some people are in there simply because they fucked up, right? They made a mistake, they committed a crime, and they've learned from it. They know they did wrong, they fucked up, and there's some people that are in there for very bad, unforgivable stuff,
Hmm.
and it's hard to treat those two people the same, but you have to.
How hard is it to treat, like, obviously, known pedophiles and kid rapists? How hard is it to treat them normal?
It's difficult. I mean, I've got kids. You know what these people have done, and they're just in there walking around with all these other people, like, you know you're still giving them food.
Hmm.
It's hard.
Do they ever say any weird stuff where it's like, whoa, fuck are you even saying right now?
Yeah, they all say weird stuff all the time, like even the non-pedophile ones. But yeah, there's some pedophiles out there that will brag about the crimes that they've committed, and it's really difficult to hear that. And I think any human, any normal human being looks at that scenario with the utmost disgust,
Yeah.
and then but you can't do anything about it. They're
Yeah.
it's our job to keep everybody safe in there. It's our job to enforce the laws in there, and it's our job to enforce the rules. It's not our job to carry out judgment on them.
I know for me, working in the medical field, like when, for example, a patient just continues to not listen about sticking on a certain medication or something, and you keep wanting to help them because that's just in your medical background, your DNA. What about in that sense with like a pedophile? And even in jail, it's like your natural thing to not just be there and work, right? You want to help people. That's kind of why you got in the field, is to see people. Maybe you give them some advice, or maybe you don't. Maybe you just treat them normal. and that helps them. What about that, but in the pedophiles? Do you keep that same energy, or is it more difficult for you to even want to help them
It's
if you
definitely
could?
more difficult. Trying to stay consistent and treat everybody the same. I do that, but it only goes so far. Like, obviously, some kid that comes into custody that made a mistake, and I think by giving him some life advice and by talking to him, I can help him. I can offer him some wisdom, and I'm not gonna sit there and have a conversation with somebody that's a pedophile. My personal opinion is that should be a capital crime. If you're convicted of that, you should never see the light of day again.
I agree.
And that's my personal opinion. That's not what the law says. But I mean, I'm not going to go and try and coach somebody to righteousness from something like that. I'm not going to go out of my way to do harm to them or anything like that, but I'm not going to go out of my way to do anything extra for them, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely don't think they should see the light of day either, because I don't know how anybody could do that to children or anybody in general, but yeah, that's awful. What about, like, my sister, for example, when she hears your stories, how do you think those affect her? Because, stories are interesting. Anybody who tells them, or anybody who hears them, but how do you think it really affects her hearing these things?
It's hard to say. I think, I mean, she's obviously a very tough woman, and I think that she can handle anything that's thrown at her. And the things that I do discuss with her is like a fraction of what happened and what you know even with you, when I talk to all of you guys about it, like you're getting the cliff notes. You're not getting 100%. You're getting just enough to, because sometimes it's difficult for me because it's hard to process some of this stuff. And so I have to go back and, like, sometimes you just have to talk about it. And like, I don't want to talk about that stuff with my family, but at the same time, I mean, like, who else am I going to talk about it with?
Is there anything that has ever happened, while you were at work that you wish that you could talk to somebody about, or maybe you don't think that they would understand or relate?
I don't know if I would say that I wish I could talk to somebody about stuff, because for me it's difficult. It's like, maybe in the beginning I felt that way, but now that I've been dealing with it for so long, there's not a lot of people out there that would understand. Like, even where most people would go, like, seek professional help, like, therapists are great for a lot of people, but it's hard to find anyone that knows what I've seen or would even comprehend what I've seen, because a lot of these therapists are everyday people. They're normal people, and they chose that line of work, but they're also the ones that are, in a crowded place, and when something minor goes off, they think it's this great big deal. Scenario where you and I might just be like, well, this isn't a big deal.
Don't they have like
You know,
deputy therapist or something?
they in the last couple of years they've gotten, like, really good at that, like, peer support stuff, and there's some nonprofits out there that have come together for stuff like that, and it's really good. Like, a lot of people use them. They do great work, and they help a lot of people. I just don't feel like I need that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some awful stuff, but there's people out there that have seen stuff way worse than I have. I'm not going to take resources away from those people because I feel like I feel like I handle my emotions just fine on my own.
I think everybody thinks that. Like,
You know,
I feel like even you guys tell me that I should probably see a therapist. But I think I handle my emotions pretty well. But I think my therapist would need a therapist.
and that's kind of like what I feel like. Like if I went and talked to a therapist, they'd be like, "Oh my God, what are you talking about? Like, it's crazy." You know, the average person goes through life and does CPR on somebody how many times? Maybe once. You know, for people like you and I, it's a lot. You know, sometimes several times a week. And even worse for like EMTs and firefighters. Those guys are like doing CPR on people a couple times a shift. And that takes a toll on a person. Like, because you're sitting there and you're something as precious as life is in your hands. And you're trying to get these people back, and sometimes you just can't. And that's been the case for me. I've done a lot of CPR, and I think maybe one or two have actually survived. And that's hard to, because you always go back and think, well, what could have I done better? How could have I been better so that this
Yeah.
person could have lived?
I think that's like
And
like a normal human thing. Like everybody thinks like even what could I have done better to talk to that guy or girl? I feel like it's a normal thing.
I agree that's a normal thing, but it's different when you're talking about something like that with in respect to yeah, like going and talking to somebody, or maybe I could have done better on that job interview, or I could have done better when I was doing this or that. But it's completely different when you're trying to sit there and think about what you could have done better to save somebody's life. That weighs on you. Or even if it's not as direct as that, there's in this line of work, there's mistakes that can be made that cost people their lives. You don't mean to make those mistakes, but sometimes they get made.
Kind of like being a nurse too, because it's weird that a lot of people are like, well, just give it a few years and then everything will be normal. You won't even think about that. I still don't feel that way, and I've been a nurse for like 3 years. If I were to have another hospice patient dying, I don't think it would ever be normal. Like, I don't know how these nurses say stuff like that, or it's just weird. When you see somebody at the brink of death, you learn what it looks like, you learn what it sounds like, what it smells like. It's awful.
Yeah.
You can't ever normalize it. I don't know how they do, because every time I've seen a patient just with one symptom, like getting oral thrush, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, their day's coming. 3 days
Yeah.
later, they're gone, because that's like one of the first signs that someone's passing.
Yeah. I think it's different probably for like ER nurses and in that regards because they're dealing with it like a lot, a
Mm-hmm.
lot, a lot. So for them, like they've got no choice but to just move on to the next one.
I mean, so do hospice nurses, right? That's all they do. Even like my old, I wouldn't call her my mentor. She was an LVN, but she was like a case manager. So she sent me to all the
Mm-hmm.
people. Even her, she was like, oh, well, he's no longer here with us. On to the next. I'm like, on to the next? Like that guy was dying for 3 days straight. And she was there a lot. Whenever
Yeah.
I left, she would go and she'd take over for me, whether it's their oxygen's getting lower and you got to put it on or
Yeah.
raise it, or whatever the case is. You can't get their pulse because their hands are blue, or whatever it is. She seems so normal, and
Yeah.
like I don't think 15 years of work could ever make that normal for me.
Well, I think it can because I mean I see it in some regards of my job. Like we talk about adrenaline. Like, do you have any idea what it takes for me to like get excited about something? I don't, because it's like,
It's always there.
yeah, like there are some of the most I've dealt with things that are more exciting than the average person will ever even think of. And I'm not saying like exciting in a good way, but That's still just one hormone. That excitement is one, whether it's a good excitement or a bad excitement,
Mm-hmm.
it's still just one thing. And so I've dealt with it so much that now, like, just don't get excited about anything.
I get that. I get that actually, but I think it's all my years of trauma
And that
because
and that
some
could be
people
too,
go,
because that's still like excitement. That
yeah,
trauma is excitement to your mind, your body, even though it's not good.
mm,
It's not like when you think of, oh, this is exciting, like, oh, we're gonna go on vacation, or somebody's excited because they're getting married. You're not saying that kind of excitement, but like incitement, like something that's above the baseline.
yeah. No, I get
And
that. Even when bad things happen to other people, I'm like, well, I mean, could be worse. I mean, sorry.
yeah,
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, I do try to give people a lot of advice. Maybe it's my older age kicking in, but I try to tend to even help my clients when they go through things, and I'll tell them my story. And I think that even excites them. Like, they still feel, oh, wow, like, but I don't feel that anymore. Like, when I hear someone's story about everything they did, I'm like, that's crazy. Back then, I would have been like, oh my gosh, that guy's a murderer, and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, well, another murderer.
yeah, it's just another day.
Just another day in the
Like
life.
when something crazy happens to the everyday person, they witness a car accident, or they get robbed, whatever the case may be, like, they think about that for weeks. Like, weeks, that's on their mind, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that happened.
Yeah.
For me, it's like another thing that happened.
I think whenever stuff like that happens too, like I think I saw some lady's car flipping over like 5 times on the freeway, and I called Hector and I told him, and then that was it. Like it was like, oh shit, that was pretty crazy what I saw, but that was it. And
Yeah.
then people will be telling that story to their grandchildren late, like 2 weeks later, you know?
Yeah. And that takes a toll. So, like, in law enforcement, there's a lot that takes a toll on you. And that, all that trauma is just like part of it, right? Like, there's still like a whole nother half of it. Like, in law enforcement, you're held to such a high standard, right? Like, you know, where the everyday person, if somebody approaches them on the street and starts, cussing at them or being a prick or whatever, that person has the option to be like, you know what, dude, let's fight in the street right here. Like, I
Yeah.
don't have that option. I'm held to a higher standard. I have to be like, you know what, man, just have a good day. And I got to turn the other cheek and walk away from that,
Even medical
you know?
professionals, they're held to some weird standard I still
Right.
can't get to.
But,
It's real hard.
there's one thing in like my entire career. I wouldn't say it bugs me. It doesn't bug me, but it's just something I think about all the time because, and I'm not trying to like compare professions here,
Mm-hmm.
but medical personnel like nurses, doctors, you guys have malpractice insurance that you can get,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, like, if you make a mistake or you do something bad, you have insurance that's going to cover that for you for the
Depending.
most part.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? Like, you can look up doctors and see that they've been sued, you know, hundreds of times because of this or that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not a thing in law enforcement. Law
I
enforcement, we don't have some insurance that we get to go
yeah.
buy that's,
Some
oh
cop
yeah,
insurance.
sorry we killed this guy, but
I think it's
I
a
got
little
insurance for
different,
that.
but I think the insurance is more like, okay, like you give a lady a breast reduction, and there are side effects, and those side effects aren't known to them. They let them know, hey, you could bleed to death, whatever the case is.
Mm.
You have that insurance covering you if that were to happen. But if you, let's say, you're in a nursing home and you give the wrong medication, it doesn't really help you there because you did a med error. It actually goes on your license. So you could lose it. You could just not be hired anywhere. So it doesn't really, it's almost the same, but you do have a little leeway of like, if you did this and this happened to you, then we're not liable. But it's kind of like the same
Yeah,
thing you
but. Yeah, but. You,
guys have, right? I mean, if
Not really. I
I
mean,
mean, like if if 50 inmates are fighting, right? And you have to get in there, but you can't help them all. You're one guy. Or maybe you're a 3-team guy.
Mhm.
And one gets killed. I mean, are you liable?
Well, it depends on what you did. I mean, that's going to be investigated so thoroughly that,
They still investigate nurses too.
like, and the crazy part of that is, like, say you didn't do anything wrong there that affected that scenario, right?
Mhm.
But during the course of that investigation, they find some other minor policy violation that they would have never even known about. Now you're on the hook for that because that just got happened upon.
Yeah. That is
You know?
crazy.
And that happens so often that it's nuts, right? So, like, these inmates and even criminals on the street cops, they deal with this some too, but these people, they've got nothing better to do than to sit in there and write complaints, right? Citizens, these inmates, they're still considered citizens, right? They still have the ability to write personnel complaints on people.
Mhm.
And so they'll sit there and they'll write them all day now. You know, they have a tablet, right? Every inmate gets a tablet, and they can just sit in there and fill out personnel complaints all day long, you know, in between the movies that they're watching or whatever. And they're frivolous complaints, right? That, you know, these, I don't have to deal with it as much now because I'm a supervisor. You know, I don't really deal hands on with them as much as I used to. But part of being a supervisor now is I have to investigate those complaints on my staff. And it's like, these complaints are frivolous. Like, these deputies, they're not doing anything wrong in the sense that the complaint alleges.
Yeah.
But during the course of the investigation, you go find some other policy violation, you know, something as simple as, like, obviously you're not supposed to have cell phones in jail. Like, even if you're staff, you can't take your cell phone. And so you're investigating a complaint. Say this inmate complained, well, this deputy, you know, told me to go fuck myself or whatever. Yeah, you know, something as simple as this guy's got his cell phone. Well, now he's going to get potential discipline that we would have, for a policy violation that we would have not otherwise known about. But because these guys sit there and turn in all these complaints, these policy violations get discovered, which I guess isn't a bad thing on, you know, from the department side of it, but from the staff side of it is they don't catch a break. Every little thing that they do is scrutinized, even if it's a minor thing that would have never been, like, if those allegations in themselves were made, we would never go investigate that, right? It's just a minor thing. But because the allegations that were made were bigger and we investigate it and then we happened upon the smaller violation, we have to do something about it. Yeah. And so it's like these guys, they don't catch a break. And so at one point or another, you start to feel like, man, not only are these inmates out to get you, but your own department, your own employer is out to get you too. And that's difficult. You know, you come into a place where you walk into work every day thinking, man, is this the day that I'm going to get put on admin leave for something that I didn't do or something crazy, you know? That's hard to deal with, especially when, like in my case, where, you know, if I lose my job, how am I supposed to provide for my family? Like, I've been doing this for so long now. It's not like I could just run out and get some other job, you know? Like, this is this is my livelihood. This is my life. Yeah. And so that's kind of hard to deal with.
I hear you there. Because I couldn't imagine going to work every day and be like, well, today's the day I get to go home because I did something that I didn't do that somebody found out from something.
Yeah, and it's like, and that could happen for like fairly minor stuff, right? Because in law enforcement, because you are held to such a high standard, because you have to be able to testify in court and stuff. Like, there's a reason why when people go to court and the cop says something on the stand, what that cop says is the truth. That's it, you know, like, You could have 10 other people saying saying something else, but what he said is the truth, and that's because we're held to such a high standard.
Yeah.
You know, if you as a law enforcement officer, if you get caught in a lie, you are done. You are fired. You will never work in law enforcement again. And it's because they have to be able to trust that when you're testifying, you're telling the truth.
That's good. And that's why there's not a lot of law enforcement, because there's so many issues in there. You know, all these things, minor things that you can get in trouble with. That's why there's no staff.
Well, yeah, and it's just like nobody wants to do the job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to sign up and go do a job there where everybody's going to hate you.
Yeah.
You know, nobody likes law enforcement. It used to be a respected profession. You know, people used to love cops, care about cops.
Yeah.
That's not the case anymore. You know, people hate you for the profession that you chose. They don't know a thing about you. They don't know how good of a person you are or how not good of a person that you are. They see your profession and they hate you.
Which is crazy. I just showed Joe a video of some lady. It's like a little animated thing, and it was a lady saying like, defund the police, and she had like a sign, and then she's sleeping at night and someone breaks into her home and she's like, there's robbers, intruders, and what does she do? Call 911, and it says no one's available.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the perfect example of why you should not hate law enforcement.
Well, it just sucks because it's like there's a lot of people out there that get to be proud of their profession, right? Like, you know, it's cliche to say firefighters because you know the back and forth between cops and firefighters, but everybody loves firefighters, right? Nobody would ever say, "Well, let's defund the firemen," you know.
Which is, yeah, weird to think about.
So those guys, they get to be proud of their profession, you know. They get to go to their kids' school and say, "Man, I'm a firefighter. I'm this," or out in public, they don't worry about anything. Like, "Oh, I'm a firefighter," you know.
But I think
for me, that's not the case. Like, I don't want my kids telling anybody what I do. I don't want.
Yeah.
We go out in public and, you know.
I think firefighters.
What do I tell you guys all the time? Like, don't tell anybody what I do.
Yeah.
It's just going to cause me problems.
I think a lot of firefighters, they don't have a option to get something wrong. Their one job is to put out a fire. You know, like with cops, there's things that could go wrong. He said, she said, but really in firefighters, you don't ever see that. I think that's why they're held differently. But I love cops.
They do. They look at like you know, you look at like the Palisades fire and that down there where it's like, you know, how do you guys let this whole community get burnt to the ground?
Yeah.
You know, they.
But it's not as exaggerated as cops. Like you could be not even, I don't know, you could be like a desk cop or something, and they're like, gosh, you're just this and that. You must have did this. And he's like, I sit behind a desk all day. Yeah. I didn't do nothing.
Yeah. I mean, they took some flack over that incident, but you're right. I mean, it's not the same. It's not like for law enforcement because, you know, you could save a baby one day and then have to shoot somebody the next day, and then you're the bad guy, you know?
I think the new generation sucks, and they're just not very bright. And they put a lot of thoughts in our head to say somebody's wrong, somebody's right, but they don't ever look in the in-between.
Well, the new generation, they're very gullible and impressionable. Mm-hmm. But one thing I admire them for is they truly give no fucks. Like, if they lose their job tomorrow, I'll find another one.
Yeah, that's because they got our generation who's there to welcome them back home.
You know, it's like, because most of my staff are born in like 2004, 2005, 2006. Like, they're young kids, man. And they don't care. You know, for me, when I started working for the sheriff's office, like, man, if I fuck this thing up, I'm going to go back to crawling under houses every day. And I'm not going to have medical insurance. And I'm not going to have a retirement. These kids don't care about any of that.
Like me, where was I before the Starbucks? before I was a nurse. I can't even think or fathom going back to another job. Not only because it's half a pay cut, but this is my job, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave you with these few questions. So, what would you say to anybody who wants to become a cop? What advice would you give them, or what would you tell them?
Become a fireman.
I don't think that's a good advice.
I mean, well, it sucks because that kind of kneecaps the law enforcement community, but if we strip that question down and go like very specific and say, would I want my kids being in law enforcement? No, absolutely not. I don't want them to live with the same burdens that I live with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to go through the same things that I do. I mean, yeah, I just don't want that for them. So it's hard for me to, in good faith, tell people like, hey, you're going to love your life if you choose this profession.
Yeah.
Because I'd be lying to them,
Yeah. What would you tell a new one, like a new sheriff who's already in the profession that's struggling?
To be consistent, to stand their ground, and to always do the right thing.
Do you think there's certain people who just can't hack it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what would you tell them?
This line, that actually happens fairly often. I mean, we get these new hires, and I'll personally tell them like, hey, this isn't for you, and it's not me talking trash to you. You may want you could want this more than anything in the world, but you are not prepared for this.
It's like what we were talking about with the people who are going crazy, and then there's us who's like, well, just another day. And those are the kind of people we need in these fields, and not the everything's crazy, the world's ending kind of.
Well, in law enforcement, you have to, you have to be able to be kind of callous. You have to be able to be mean, and some people that's
not in their.
That's just not in their genes, like there's some people that just they don't have a mean bone in their body, and law enforcement's just not the career for them. And then there's some people that just are literally just so unteachable that this isn't for you, because you're never gonna, to be in this line of work, you have to be able to tell yourself like, hey, I don't know everything about this, and I need to be able to learn. And some people can't do that.
Yep.
Some people go in with the attitude like,
they know everything.
I know everything. There's nothing that you're going to tell me that I don't know.
Yeah.
And sorry, you're just not going to make it.
Like, I mean, I'm sure they're not prepared to find an ear on the floor, and
right.
You can't really tell them it, and they'll be like, well, it's just an ear. But when it happens, you're like, it's a fucking ear.
Yeah. You're just, there's just some people that just aren't cut out for it. Some people are cut out for just, and that's just the experience alone. That doesn't have anything to do with like the hours and the shift work and the mandatory overtime and the mandatory call-ins, like missing holidays, missing birthdays, missing anniversaries. Like some people just aren't cut out to be able to deal with that. And secondly, think about spouses and families. Some spouses aren't cut out for that.
Yeah.
Joe's been great about like, hey, I understand you can't get this day off, or you're not going to be home for this holiday or for this anniversary or for this Valentine's Day.
But not everybody's like that.
She's been excellent about that. But not every spouse is that way, that could cause some serious, turmoil in some marriages. And I feel like, your marriage, that's your bread and butter. Like, if Joe told me tomorrow, like, hey, I want you to quit your job and find something else to do, I'd quit my job and find something else to do.
You'd have to, because there's no way you guys would ever not be together.
You know, like I have to. Like she's the most important thing. Her and the kids are the most important thing in my life. Like I would, even though I literally can't see myself being anything else. I would have to cope with that and figure that out. But some spouses aren't made to be with somebody that has to live this lifestyle.
I totally get you. Just like in the medical profession, the double shifts, and I don't know how they do it either, because how can you give CPR to somebody when you're up for 24 hours already, or
it's hard,
whatever the case is. But definitely understand that, and we'll leave you guys with thinking about what my brother-in-law here said. If you're thinking about becoming a cop and you have any of those attributes that we described, if not, you probably shouldn't be a cop. Definitely become a firefighter. And also, remember that your relationship is very important when you're working these difficult jobs. Okay? And if you related to any of this, definitely hope that it helped you, or maybe it gave you some clarity that you're not alone, right? Every sheriff or every nurse out there goes through something, and it's not perfect. And maybe you're not cut out for it, but I hope this helped. Anyways, say goodbye to my special guest. Thanks for coming and talking and giving your story.
Anytime.
Alrighty, well, this has been Trauma Bond, and I will have another episode for you next Sunday at 9 p.m. Stay tuned. Bye.